All right, for those who joined a little bit late, it's 9:01, and so I think I'll just watch for other folks to join. And so I have started the recording. Welcome, everyone. And before we can start and get into the nitty gritty, we have to do a motion, and then I'll need someone to second that to start off the official meeting. Oh, one more person to join. There we go. So here's the motion. Pursuant to Governor Lee's Executive Order number 78 regarding electronic meetings, I make a motion that this committee meeting agenda constitutes essential business of the Metropolitan Council and that the meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Could I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right. Do we have to do a roll call vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Per the rules the governor's laid out.
Okay. Mr. Carlton? Just aye or nay?
Aye.
Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Tackett?
Aye.
Judge Blackburn? Judge Blackburn, are you okay to say aye for the motion? You gotta come off mute. Lisa?
Can you hear me?
I can. You say aye for the motion that we have to meet electronically?
Aye.
Okay. Ms. Payne?
Aye.
Okay. Ms. Drake?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Tenison?
Aye.
Ms. Condren?
Aye.
Ms. Bannister?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Crenson?
Aye.
Okay. Councilman Druffel?
Aye.
Okay. Judge Blackburn, can I have an aye that you're okay that we have to meet electronically for the motion? Judge Blackburn? I think
her camera may be frozen.
Yeah, I think her camera's frozen. Judge Blackburn, are you okay with us doing the meeting? Oh, okay, she did a verbal head nod, so I will say that she's having trouble coming off mute or something. Okay, great. Welcome, everyone. Pardon me, goodness. Oh, John Fergus, I forgot. John Fergus is with me. Aye. Aye. Okay, John Fergus is an aye too. So welcome everyone. We're so glad that you can join. I'll just apologize up front. This is new for me, and so I did not get the read aheads out in a timely manner. They have to go through Metro, and I don't think I was very clear in asking Metro to send them out to you, and that's why you got the email this morning with the read aheads, but I will call them up on the computer as we go through them. So first thing on the agenda is welcome. Those of you who don't know me, I'm Eden Murray. I'm the CEO at Operation Stand Down Tennessee and one of your two facilitators. And we'll go around the room, but I want to introduce my co-facilitator, who's the past president of Operation Stand Down Tennessee. John, you want to say anything?
No, just great to be here, and so appreciate all of you being willing to take part in this effort. Getting to this point has been a long time coming, and so many thanks to our council members and our vice mayor for having pulled this together. Just real briefly, I'm a veteran and formerly with Operation Stand Down Tennessee. So thank you.
Cool. Is everybody okay if I use your first name? So Carlton, can I use your first name? You want to go next?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. My name is Carlton Denson, transplant to Nashville, Tennessee, member of the Tennessee Army National Guard, and pleased and thrilled to be part of the committee.
Awesome. Judith?
Judith Tackett, Director of the Homeless Impact Division of Metro Social Services, and we are very pleased to be part of this group and look at some of the most vulnerable veterans and how we can help.
Great, thank you. Martina?
Good morning, Martina Condren. I'm the Operations Director at Room in the Inn. Room in the Inn is a single site of services that serves people experiencing homelessness. And for the past 32 years, we have welcomed veterans into our community. About 23 years ago, we are part of the GPD programs in Nashville. We currently have 3 different programs for veterans in transitional living. One is the service intensive, which is basically a transitional living. We also have a hospital to housing for veterans who are coming out of the hospital who are experiencing homelessness, and also a program called Low Demand, which is for veterans who are struggling with substance abuse and are having a hard time committing to programs of sobriety. So it's more of a place where forgiveness is an everyday occurrence. And so we're very, very thankful to the VA for over the years recognizing that it isn't just one program fits all for our veterans who are experiencing homelessness, and have devised these 3 programs that I spoke about, but also treatment programs and bridge housing, which is the quick path to housing through the HUD-VASH program. Very
Great.
happy to be here.
Super, thank you. Judge Blackburn, I'm going to skip to you because I know you have to leave. So do you want to introduce yourself? Judge Blackburn? You have to come off mute. Take your computer off mute. You're on mute. Take your computer off mute.
I'm only hearing every few words, so I apologize.
Great.
I think it's my connection. I'm Judge Blackburn. I'm the Mental Health and Veterans Court judge here in Davidson County.
Awesome, thank you. Yolanda?
Good morning. I'm Yolanda Bannister. I'm a 27-year veteran, retired from the Army in 2017. I currently work with the state of Tennessee with the Department of Human Resources as the program manager for recruiting division.
Great, all right. Paul?
Hi, good morning. My name is Paul Tenison. I'm a military law attorney at Cole Law Group. I'm here on behalf of the Nashville Bar Association's Veterans Committee. Also, I myself am a veteran, been in the military for 11 years. I left active duty to move to Nashville to go to Vanderbilt Law School. And then I also recently came back from an deployment to Poland back to Nashville. So I have some personal experience as a veteran transitioning back to Tennessee as well. Thank you.
Kim?
I'm Kim Carpenter Drake. I'm a social impact and community consultant, and had the pleasure of working with Stand Down and the early iterations of the collective impact concept. So I am thrilled to be here and to be part of the team.
Cool. Victoria?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Victoria Payne. I'm the policy manager here at the Nashville Chamber, and we are particularly grateful to be a part of this conversation, particularly around veterans and workforce, unemployment, employment, skills training, and really working to retain the strong talent that veterans offer Middle Tennessee. So thank you so much.
Great. Lisa?
Yes, I'm Lisa Kiss. I'm the Davidson County Veteran Service Officer. I am an Army veteran. I assist veterans in applying for various VA state and local benefits, and I'm co-located at Operation Stand Down.
Great, cool. So now I would like to introduce the 2 people really that are responsible for us being able to do this special committee. And those are our 2 council folks who are on the call. And so Councilman Rutherford.
Thank you. Yes, I'm John Rutherford. I'm an Air Force veteran. I'm a member of Metro Council representing District 31 in Southeast Nashville. On council, I chair the Personnel, Public Information, Human Relations, and Veterans Committee. And I also co-chair and I'm a co-founder of the first ever Metro Council Veterans Caucus, something we're very proud of in this term. And as if that wasn't enough, day job, I'm the National Program Manager for the National Guard Employment Support Program. We provide civilian employment support for National Guard members, their families, and veterans all across the country and in all 50 states, major territories, and the District of Columbia. And I'm happy to be a part of this group and happy to have been part of the leadership that helped pull it together.
Great. Councilman Druffel, I know I'm going to get to John in a minute. I haven't forgotten him. Councilman Druffel, you want to go? Because I know you have to get off the phone too here shortly.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks. Tom Druffel, I'm councilman for District 23 on the Veteran Caucus, getting to serve with Councilman Rutherford and Hancock. Really just following Councilor Rutherford's lead on this, it's a great opportunity that we've been able to do some work and expand opportunities to support veterans. Been in the hotel business, actually just retired, but within that scope, we spent a fair amount of time trying to help employment with veterans, and so glad to be on this committee.
Awesome, thanks. Last but not least, John Fergus.
Okay, thank you. It's an honor for me to be here this morning. Longtime Nashvilleian. I know John Crenson personally. This is an interesting group. I know Lisa Kiss personally, does a fine job. I finished Father Ryan in 1961. First MTS University class, 20 August 65. Went through ROTC there 4 years. Served on active duty 5 years, 65 to 70. Vietnam, 67, 68. And then I joined the Tennessee Army National Guard. Had some wonderful experiences with the Guard. Served with them 23 years. And so retired in 2002 with 28 years military service. I've been active with my VFW post in West Nashville, post 1970, on Charlotte Pike, since 1970, and my American Legion post 5 here in Nashville. American Legion post 5 is very active in veterans issues. This meeting, if I could just say very briefly, I'm recalling an incident when Dick Fulton was first elected mayor. We had a World War II veteran who was the county veteran service officer, but was retiring and moving to Florida, which he did. And Mayor Fulton called a meeting similar to this one, to be honest with you, and said, I'm not going to appoint a successor. I'm going to do something else with that budget, even though he was a veteran himself and a veterans advocate for many years. And we have not had a county service officer for the intervening 40 years until the mayor then appointed Miss Lisa Kiss. What, Lisa, about 3 years ago now. And we're very excited to have that position and her doing a fine job. I bring greetings from several veterans who are active, as you may know, in your own district with the American Legion and the VFW and other veterans groups. So anything I can do with the committee, I'd be honored to do so. Thank you very much.
Great, 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 great. Everybody else said they were a veteran. I forgot. Yeah, I'm a veteran too. Air Force veteran, 29 years. And I have been with Stand Down for 4. So great. Cool. Well, that will get us all to know everybody. There is a chat room. If for some reason I missed that you're raising your hand or something. The other thing I'll mention that we put out in the email is I believe at the end of April, we will need to meet in person unless the governor extends the electronic meeting rule. And so I've reserved a room here at Stand Down. We have free parking and we have lots of it. It's easy to get to. So, we'll talk about that a little bit more as it gets closer to the end of the month, but just something to think about that is a requirement for us to meet in person unless the rule is extended. Next on the agenda, if you have a chance to call it up, I won't call it up, I'll just tell you what it is to just kind of talk about or remind about the purpose and the objectives that Councilman Rutherford first sent out in his email when he listed the questions to us all. And so the Special Committee on Veterans will look at ways to improve the services Metro provides to our local veterans. We had several questions to look at, and we'll get into that discussion in a little bit later. And then I believe that I would understand that the objective is one, obviously to review what services are out there and if there's any gaps the Metro could fill. And then finally, I believe that we're going to do a report at the end of this special committee detailing to the Vice Mayor if we think that there needs to a Veterans Commission that Metro would establish. Councilman Rutherford, did I miss anything on that?
No, I don't think so. I think you covered it. We're basically looking for ways in which Metro can better serve our local veteran community. And the Veteran Service or Veterans Commission idea is just one of those ideas. but the council is awaiting a report from us at the end of this, and whether that means legislation or not, then we'll certainly move forward with that. But hopefully we can come up with some good things in which we can do better and add to what we're doing to serve our veteran community.
Great, great. So the other thing that you can get a chance to review, but the slides are there. And so even for myself, having been involved in the veteran community here in Nashville, I was a transplant. I've only been here about 8 years now. And like I say, worked at Stand Down for 3. But there have been other initiatives kind of around this, and to really, look at collectively what veteran services are being provided, and are those enough, or should there be more, or this or that or the other. And John Princeton and Kim Carpenter Drake were certainly very involved in those, and to some extent Lisa Kiss. And so some of us are coming in new to that and may not know what past initiatives were. That doesn't mean they were good or bad. I just think what we wanted to do in this meeting was just inform people of what those past initiatives were, to kind of, because there's no reason to repeat something if we've already looked at it, or we have information about that we can bring up, so that we can really focus on that. So I'd like to turn it over to John Princeton, because he's been really involved in those as his previous role as CEO, and also on the Suicide Prevention Task Force for the governor, and on a variety of different ways. And then after that, we'll look at the way that we're going to go forward, that John and I proposed we go forward for topics. That's just a draft in that Excel spreadsheet. If we're missing a topic, or you have another speaker in mind, this was just to get the conversation started. So before we get into that, John, over to you.
Great, thank you, Eden. And again, thanks everybody for being part of this. We thought it would be very helpful to give folks an idea of what has happened beforehand in Nashville in terms of efforts to collectively address veteran issues and veteran concerns and veteran opportunities, because we're not operating in a vacuum. There's a whole body of work that has gone on before, but there's also a large body of work that has not happened, and that presents us a great opportunity. So just in way of background, from what I'm aware of, the first real effort collectively in Metro Davidson County to address veteran issues was back in the early 90s, particularly focused on homeless veterans. And that effort actually was co-founded and led by John Fergus, who has graced us with his presence here. And John is just a wealth of institutional knowledge of the various efforts that have taken place across Nashville over the last 30 or 40 years. In fact, probably most every effort that has taken place has included John at some level. So I know we'll be drawing upon John's expertise and his insights and his relationships to help us as we move forward. But that very first effort in the early 90s, 1993, I believe to be exact, was focused on homeless veterans. And it was the first stand down event in the Nashville area. And I'll try to be very brief on this, but the history of stand down events was a response to a crisis of veteran homelessness that had developed over the 70s and the 80s, most acutely affecting Vietnam veterans. It sprung out of the private sector, and then very, very quickly was adopted across the public sector across the nation, and spawned some of the grants we see today, such as the GPD program for transitional housing that Martina spoke about, and that Room in the Inn has had a long history of making huge impacts in. Operation Stand Down as well has a GPD program, as does Matthew 25 in the Nashville area, Pennyroyal and Hopkinsville and Buffalo Valley across Middle Tennessee. And we'll learn more about things like that as we go forward through these meetings. Stand Down events were initially a 3-day event, bringing veterans together with resources from across the community. State of Tennessee, Metro Nashville, the Tennessee National Guard participated very heavily in those, as did businesses and other nonprofits. The housing programs were developed for transitional housing to get homeless veterans off the street. Base Camp was the early pioneer in that. That's what led to other programs such as Room in the Inn and that Operation Stand Down operate today. And then I'd say in the early teens of the 2000s, Operation Stand Down Tennessee probably being the most comprehensive and quote unquote flagship of comprehensive veteran services on a day-to-day basis, solely focused on veteran issues, began to look at transitioning and broadening its mission from serving chronically homeless veterans, but to all veterans across the community. And this was driven by a change in the veteran landscape and population, particularly with the post 9/11 veteran population, with the idea that, hey, we don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past, and have a whole new generation of combat veterans fall into homelessness, as too many did from the Vietnam War era and from Korea and World War II as well. So the board at Operation Stand Down Tennessee said, hey, here's an opportunity to prevent homelessness rather than to simply be a response to it. And so at about 2015, we began expanding that mission. So much of what we'll talk about going forward, as Stand Down has addressed with many, many community members across the board the last half dozen years or so, is how do we prevent homelessness? And not only that, how do we help veterans transition into the private sector so we can really harness their value to our community from the get-go. And so one of the efforts to address that early on a few years ago was the Nashville Serving Veterans effort. That was led, it was focused on Nashville as a collective engagement opportunity, but then it was also, but was led by folks outside Nashville. And that's not bad. Those were just the people who were in the position to kind of bring it together. So it was kind of a quasi, Nashville focused thing, but also had a lot of state influences, which were actually probably pretty helpful for the effort. But at the same time, it didn't have a lot of drill down focus either. So to kind of harness the focus and to really help that group develop an objective, about 3 years into that effort, we pulled together people from across 40 different agencies and businesses and organizations across upper middle Tennessee, primarily Nashville, to really give some strategic direction to Nashville Serving Veterans. And that basically was a 2-day retreat held at the Center for Nonprofit Management, led by a great member in our midst today. Kim Carpenter Drake facilitated that effort. And she is a local expert in collective impact initiatives across the country. And she's been very involved with the National Veterans Initiative, which seeks to promote efforts such as this. So it's a natural to have Kim part of this because she's already done a ton of work with a lot of people in our community trying to figure out exactly what it is that the Vice Mayor and the Veterans Caucus is trying to figure out for Nashville. So this is not a direct result of that 2-day planning retreat a few years ago, but it's exactly what that retreat was looking for. So that brings us, I think, to where we are today, especially with the Veterans Caucus and the great work that they've done to really help pull this together. And I believe that one of the things we'll propose for our agenda down the line is to talk about what collective impact is supposed to be, how it looks, and how it can be an opportunity for Metro to address veteran issues comprehensively. So with that said, and Eden, I think if I start with you, we can bring up Kim's work in summarizing the efforts that we had during that 2-day retreat. And by the way, John Fergus participated in that, as did Lisa Kiss. We had folks there from Room in the Inn, United Way, again, about 40 people representing about 24 or more agencies. And I'm happy to talk through this, but I don't want to because I don't want to spring one on Judith, my failure in not having reached out to her earlier. But Kim, would you like to address or kind of walk through any of this at all?
Thanks, John.
John does it to her again.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Kim, before you start, real quick, can everybody see my screen?
Good to hook here.
Yeah, it would probably help to stretch the screen. So since it's a landscape format, it's kind of compressing it a bit. So if you have a smaller screen, it may be hard to see the detail.
Best I can do, Kim.
Okay, well then there it is.
Okay.
So really, this deck is a way that we pulled together all of the brainstorming and discussion of that 2-day, but then it also goes beyond that a bit in how we started to unpack some of those in follow-up discussions and in the ways that we were able to interpret it. So Ian, if you want to go ahead to the next slide.
Yep, it's up. Are you guys not seeing it?
I'm still seeing the first one.
Okay, my screen moved. Not yours aren't? Well, that's annoying. Let me try again. Now? Okay, guys, I'm not sure why it's not working.
All right, how about if I pull it up? Can you screen share with me?
Yeah. Let me do it. All right, I did.
Okay. How
and
about
everyone
that?
has a copy of this as well for reference now, or particularly for the future. So, yeah.
Right. Are you able to see my screen?
We are.
Okay. So just to go through this real quickly, we won't describe everything, but maybe it'll give you a context for as you look through it. So really the process that we used was to break people down into work groups and brainstorm together. And then we used what's called graphic facilitation as a way to sort of map onto a wall how those pieces were coming together. So when you look at the couple of these slides that you think, what in the world is that? That is the process for which this is the result. So this first one really tells us more about the dynamics of what veterans were perceived to be experiencing in our community. So if you look in the center, it's this family unit and this issue around relationships and the potential of maintaining a sense of tribe, a sense of belonging. And I point that out because I think we will see that that continues to be a common thread, both in this discussion and as we move forward. It's that sense of belonging that is frequently lost as a veteran transitions back into a community. And then around it are some of the things that we talked about as challenges and opportunities, redefining your personal mission, finding a sense of permanency, redefining the thought of what housing and navigation looks like for financial assistance and legal assistance. And then also addressing your health needs and employment needs. But just sort of this maps the concept that as our veterans transition, there's a new sense of a need to be culturally integrated and then to use those additional tools to provide employment, health, and community opportunity. And so we picked up on this concept of tribe, and it really resonated with everyone there. And I would say that it boils down to when you are part of your tribe in an active military context, there's a lot of clarity and there's a very strong sense of belonging. And so we had a lot of discussion around how to replicate, reinforce, and transition that in civilian life, and how some people are better able to make that transition and find that new tribe, and how there's an opportunity for veteran support to help to make that connection. Then we talked about coordinated point of entry, which I think many of you are familiar with that concept. So that's a basic model of social services, the intention of which is to provide a single portal, whether it's bricks and mortar, or it's virtual, or it's a coordination process, with the intent of minimizing the amount of navigation required by the person that we're serving, and maximizing the ability to coordinate our services on their behalf. So the intent of that is, if you think of it as, rather than having to drive to each one of these places across town, can we provide a single point of entry where there's a navigation opportunity, and we bring the services to the client? Much of that is in place now in different ways, shapes, and forms. And I think Lisa, you were mentioning being co-located. That's an important piece of why that functions well when there's co-location. So again, we talked about the shared value of what it means to coordinate. It reduces confusion and increases the efficiency of what's been provided. And then we talked about the importance of the fact that not every veteran's path is going to look the same. I think we all know that. Everyone who has worked with a constituency that's come from many different paths, they are going to, each person needs to be respected and honored as an individual. And we want to ensure that any system continues to do that and to bring that personal touch to everyone's experience. And that's really the value of veterans serving veterans, of people informed by and engaged with the community providing those services. And then another one of the pillars so to speak, of collective impact is called mutually reinforcing activities. And the thought of that really is, I think that sounds sort of complex. That's the terminology for it. And of course, Judy's very familiar with all of that. But the intention is, instead of creating redundancy, instead of creating competition, what we encourage when we think collectively is that each of the players in our landscape that is working towards this shared goal identifies and becomes the expert in their piece of that equation. So that each of our activities are reinforcing the activities of our peers. And it's really powerful to move away from a competitive mindset to a cooperative mindset. Our clients are always going to win, and our community will always win when we adopt that attitude. So again, the handwritten things, that's John showing me off here. But if you get the sense of that, we've got this 1, 2, 3, 4, those are different possible pathways. All of them are great pathways, but we're respecting and honoring that individual, that everyone's path will look different. We identified some work groups that we thought we would propose moving forward. We tried to clarify some of the desired impacts. Desired impacts, the best way to think about that is, if we are wildly successful, how will we be impacting these veterans and their families moving forward? And really what we drilled down to was, again, that acknowledgement that everyone's path looks different. The ideal goal is to allow each of our veterans and their families to live the life they want to live. Not a requirement that those lives all look the same, but that we've provided the tools for them to meet their own personal best. We talked a little bit about those conditions of collective impact. I understand from Eden, we'll probably dive into those more later. We will not get into that right now. And then we identified some next steps moving forward. So, John, what did I leave out?
No, that was perfect, Kim. That was perfect. That that definitely great wrap up of what we sought to accomplish during those 2 days, and a great walkthrough through these slides. So I encourage you to go back and look at these slides, on your own. You don't have to spend a ton of time on it, but now having heard from Kim and a little of the background of how we got to those 2 days, I think that'll be worthwhile to go back and take a look at that. Again, we had 24 organizations plus, represented by over 40 people during that. So a lot of work, and what I'm so pleased about here is that now maybe that work will be picked up and help inform some of the recommendations or assessments we make about, what Metro can do to help lead collective impact efforts going forward for veterans. So I think that sums it up pretty good. Eden, if I've missed anything, let me know. Otherwise, I'll turn it back over to you. And Kim, thank you again. Appreciate that.
John, yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. John, one more thing that that I think is not today, because I feel like we're going to all sort of drink from a fire hose today. But another piece to keep in mind moving forward is maybe to share that virtual mapping that we did, and that follow-up exercise of the path of the high performing, looking for community and networking, the path of right sizing the direction for employment opportunity, and then the urgent response path. That language I think might be helpful to bring to the table at some point.
No, terrific. And I think what you'll see in this next segment that take us through is we talked about the topics that we would want to invite guest speakers to address with us in order to answer those questions that the Veterans Caucus posed to us. We have bucketed those topics within those 3 buckets that came out of that, Kim. So thanks for raising that. And we should, we'll bring the slide forward next time we get together.
Great. I know there's been a lot of talking from us. Any questions or thoughts before we kind of move into how we will attack this attack? There's that military term, how we will work to complete this task that we've been assigned. So something a little more positive there. Anything anybody would like to add or questions? Okay, nothing seen. So one thing that I think we need to do, and I had blocked out your calendars, I think all the way through July 4th for this meeting. It is quite a few questions that we were posed for Metro, for the council to kind of answer. And so I'm going to bring up this screen. I hope I'm going to bring up this slide. Hopefully everybody can see that. So John and I took a stab, and you just heard, Kim and John talk a little bit about why we bucketed things this way, but kind of an idea to lead us through this discussion. And what I would envision is after we do the initial, read the statement that says we can meet electronically, or if we're meeting in person, just kind of a hi, welcome. Anybody got any questions or anything to start? That we have a speaker or a panel of speakers talk to us for about 20 minutes. And then, to identify what's being done in each of these buckets. And then we can chat about, if there's gaps or whatever. And so that's kind of where John and I are envisioning us go. And so the first bucket that you'll see there for meetings to go forward is urgent intervention. And these topics came pretty much from the questions that Councilman Rutherford sent out to us. What is happening with veteran homelessness and housing? What is happening around veteran wellness, both generally in terms of healthcare and in terms of mental health? What happened last year in 2020 and what continues to, what are the continuing impacts from COVID? And then veteran legal concerns. And so I'm going to stop talking there for a minute to see if anyone has any questions or anything. And the other thing I'll also say, this is a great group of people with a great network out there. So John and I also picked some potential speakers that we have not reached out to yet, of course. But if you have any questions about why we picked them or why we think they would be good, we can certainly answer those. So I'll stop talking for a minute. It's hard when I'm sharing my screen to see if anybody's chatting or anything. So anybody to say anything or anything that people would like to mention?
And Ian, let me just reinforce too, if you all have ideas of folks to, again, these are potential speakers, not locked in. So if you know of other folks that you believe could speak very, very, expertly to these topics, then by all means, pony those names up because we want to get the most expert people we can before this committee.
Sure, go ahead. John's got a question.
I think maybe Lisa could best address this. Lisa, what's the current veteran population in Davidson County? Roughly. How many veterans live in Nashville?
According to the VA, there's like 31 or 32,000. But I would like to caveat that with the fact that those are tracked veterans through the VA. And so any veteran who has not received services through the VA is not part of that number. And I see veterans every day who have never tapped into any of their VA benefits and are not being tracked.
Okay, well, thank you. That number helps. And then secondly, so that everyone thinks about the three here in our great country. We're talking about a county initiative in this group, of course. But then there is a Tennessee Department of Veterans Services, now called. I was there for 20 years as an assistant commissioner. It was the Tennessee Department of Veterans Affairs, and now changed the name to Tennessee Department of Veterans Services, with offices all across the state and, of course, right here in Nashville. And then finally, the federal government with its U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, or the VA, Veterans Administration, now Veterans Affairs. So those three groups of governmental organizations serving veterans, I think have a distinct role in our efforts and our program. So sooner or later, we want to invite someone, maybe the new commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Veterans Services, General Baker, retired from the National Guard here in Tennessee, to come in and visit with us. And then someone from the federal government, maybe from the federal government, Congressman Jim Cooper's office. Something like that, I think, would add to our overall issue here. Just a thought for folks to have.
Okay, any comments on that? We can certainly add those in and reach out to those offices. So we do have Lisa talking about veterans benefits for federal and state. So she'll talk about that, but we don't have the commissioner on here. So we can certainly try and add that. Any other questions or thoughts about the first bucket there of urgent intervention? I'm trying to see.
I have a suggestion for the second group. Do you want to hold on that, or do you want to hear a suggestion for that grouping?
Sure, no, you can tell me now.
Okay. I'd love to see something about workforce engagement as opposed to I see the education piece is on here. I'd like to see something around employment, particularly. I just happened to be in a discussion yesterday with a group of corporate leaders who were talking about ERGs, employee resource groups. And I was very impressed with how impactful some of their stories were about those that had veteran ERGs as part of their employee support model. So I'd like to talk a little bit about employer engagement.
Okay, that sounds great.
Eden, that also, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, just based on that, Kim, do you have an idea of a speaker then maybe? Or, because here's the thing about, we're not supposed to email each other outside of these meetings. And so we have to have this discussion in the meetings.
Yes. So if that's the direction that you want to go with it, there are several that have very strong ERGs. John, I know, is more familiar with the contacts than I am. I might recommend that if we like that topic, that we could discuss that further. I think my suggestion, my first one would probably be HCA. John, would you say that is that's a good choice? I believe Bridgestone also has a strong one, but Bridgestone has restructured some of their corporate contact process, and I don't have a connection there.
Tractor Supply also has a good one.
Who's that? You know,
Tractor Supply.
Yeah, and it's Assurian has a good one, has had a good one in the past. I believe Amazon does. So a number of these have developed fairly well over the last several years.
So Ken, maybe we ask a panel. Too. Yeah, John, maybe we do a panel of a couple of them. Okay.
Yeah, so the contact at Amazon was on this call yesterday, and she was pointing out that they are relatively new and unpacking their local ERGs, but they're built on their national ERG model. So that may be an interesting discussion. I would be happy to invite her if we would like to do that. And then maybe Eden and John could identify one that's been on the ground longer that might be able to talk more about historical perspective. I like the idea of having a few people speak about it because I think each corporate context is going to look different.
Okay, is your contact at Amazon Eileen Anka?
It is not.
Ah, okay, she's the head of their local chapter warrior group, they call them. So do you want to, we have to talk about everything here. So do you want to give me the contact's name just so we have it for the record?
Yes, Courtney Ross.
Oh yeah, I know Courtney.
Yeah.
Courtney.
Yeah. And she is the one who, she manages their CSR. So she's coordinating with all the ERGs, but she doesn't manage any of them. So that may be another perspective to think about is, you know, someone who's looking at the context of it and corporate impact, and someone who's managing the boots on the ground of actually engaging with the veterans within the community.
We could do a panel of some sort. Maybe a good way to do this. So
yeah,
yeah. Something like a Tractor Supply and HCA and an Amazon. I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah, I can reach out to Courtney. I've got a Tractor Supply contact. John, you and I can talk about HCA. But yeah, okay, cool. That's great. All right, I will fit that in. I don't know, we would take up the whole hour on the 27th if we did about 15 minutes on veteran transition and then had a panel. John, maybe you and I can talk. I think we're just going to have to add another day.
We have to add a day. Yeah. And that'd be fine. Yeah, that'd be fine.
Eden, I also want to mention ESGR, Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve. I actually had invited them to send someone to participate in this committee. They didn't have someone available that could commit the time, but they did suggest that they could send a speaker. So we might consider adding them as well, because they're close in and around this issue.
Great. Do you have a name or a name or an email you want me to reach out to? You can let me know.
Okay.
All right. Cool.
All right.
Eden, the other thing I'd love to see us consider is in terms of engaging veterans, and specifically around community impact. So maybe it's part of that discussion either on the 27th or on the 24th. More likely, I think the 24th. Volunteerism, community building. I think there's something really powerful based on the earlier conversations that we had about creating that sense of shared opportunity to serve.
Okay.
I mean, I can't think of a more powerful way to build out the, I'm also thinking about brand a little bit, right? So that more people recognize the impact veterans have in our community. The person I would recommend as a potential person to discuss that with us would be Lori Shinton, who runs Hands on Nashville. I think that she could speak really in a very articulate way about the kinds of volunteer potential there might be. Someone else may have a better connection specifically related to veteran projects, but I think that's a great one. And Lisa just added another one to the chat as well. So,
okay.
But I'd love, from a Metro perspective, I'd love for there to be a placeholder that really identifies the incredible value beyond just the economic that veterans bring to our community when they embrace being part of it.
Well, and that's great. We might be able to split. We just might be able to call it Veteran Impact. We have Matt talk for 20 minutes, and then we have Lori talk for 20 minutes, and then it ties the two together. That might be the way to do that, if you're good with that.
I think that sounds great. I don't think it's necessarily a long discussion, but I think it would be good to add it into this context of the big picture.
Perfect. Perfect.
Let me add a historical note again, Aiden. Mm-hmm. I'm reminded this morning of a comment that the first mayor of Metro Nashville, Beverly Briley, made in a meeting with veterans one time when he said, "You didn't run for public office in Davidson County after World War II if you were not a member of the American Legion Post 5. 8,000 members in that one post. They exist today with just about 1,000 members, but the word publicity jumps to my mind. We used to have 2 daily newspapers in this town, and we really didn't have much of a problem in getting word out to the public, to include veterans, with 2 daily newspapers. We now have 1 daily newspaper. The issue is tougher on publicity. Radio and television is limited. And so I would encourage the group this morning to consider an objective of improving the publicity that just in this past hour we've all been talking about, so that the general public has a sense of what we're doing. And that word will get to those thousands of veterans who live in our county. Just a thought for you to consider.
Thank you. And maybe that comes in. I only have 1 day of working discussion for this team to, come up with an idea. So we may have to do, and if we have to do a couple extra Tuesdays or Thursdays, hopefully that'll be good. So that would be a great time to bring that up too. We are looking at 10 minutes. So I have a couple people on the committee asked to speak. Judith, I have you for next week. I want to make sure that's okay with you before you know that. Judith, are you still there?
Yes, that works.
Perfect. Okay.
And you said about 20 minutes, is that?
I think, yeah, but between you and Jackie, I think probably if you each 15, is what we'll do. And Jackie can talk about the HUD VASH program that many of these folks on this call may not know about. And then you can talk about Metro's attempt to address homelessness, veteran homelessness overall, and even homelessness writ large. If we go over that half hour, that'll be fine. But I want other people to be able to talk to see, besides John and I and you and Jackie, that type of thing. Then anybody have any other ideas on veteran healthcare? Jennifer Barron is a nurse and runs a lot of the healthcare for the VA here, retired Navy 06 nurse. And so I thought she would either be the one maybe to speak, or she would have a good idea of who to bring in, unless someone has somebody right off the top that they would like. Okay.
Have you talked to anyone from community health? Like Brian Hale at Neighborhood Health, or Morgan Wells at Siloam. I feel like Siloam is more about serving immigrant and refugee populations. But is there a particular community care provider to which people gravitate? Do we have a sense of that?
John, I'll let you weigh in too. I would say no. Again, it depends.
I mean, I'd say it'd be the VA. Yeah. So.
Yeah. For instance, Lisa's exactly right. I'm not registered with the VA. I go to Vanderbilt with my TRICARE. So I think it'll be hard for us to find one. If you're looking only at the homeless population, then I would say, Matthew Walker or Meharry, or that's where we refer people because there are clinics and all that. But in terms of talking about, are there healthcare gaps, the VA may be able to address that a little bit better. I don't know, to be honest. Let's see what we find out. We may have to do some more on that. Travis Murphy and Jody Robinson, both are involved in veteran mental health. Travis was the chair, as it says there, of the Suicide Prevention Task Force, Veteran Suicide Prevention Task Force, and certainly, and John was on that committee or council, whatever the right term was. And then Jody was the former CEO of Centerstone Military Services. And so I thought that Travis could talk a little bit about the volume, unfortunately, of veteran suicides and what factors play into that. And then Jody could talk a little bit about, from her previous role, of how we get people to providers. And she'll know about the VA piece, and she'll know about, and we may hear some more of that ahead. So I thought that those two would be good, looking at suicide prevention from what are the factors of how do we get there, and then who's out there addressing it and helping, and where it's not getting done. I think that we, Operation Stand Down, are dealing with a lot of impact on COVID. And so we'll have a rep, it may be me, it may be one of our staff members. And so if everybody's okay with that, if you can think of anyone else who would do that, we could do a panel, and we have some time to talk about that. Judge Blackburn, are you still on?
Yes, and I was going to ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we need to include substance abuse issues with mental health?
Yes. I mean, the short answer is yes. Do we have enough time for both on that one day, or should we bring another day in? And I'm just adding on for everyone's weeks. And so I know that's painful. I'd like to clue in that much. We can certainly try and bring suicide abuse into that. John, do you know from your time on that, and I'm watching our time, we got 6 minutes. Do you know from your time on the Suicide Prevention Task Force, did that come up in that discussion about how that feeds into it, or no?
As far as mental health?
As far as suicide, I'm sorry, as far as substance abuse.
Yeah, I believe so. The task force developed even a list of recommendations about how to prevent suicide and how to deal with those who are suicide survivors and that type of thing. So, and again, it's one of those deals where it's like the National Serving Veteran developed a whole bunch of recommendations, but then, who picks it up from there. And Travis also is assistant commissioner for the Tennessee Veteran Department of Services, or Tennessee Department of Veteran Services for Middle Tennessee.
Right, John, but yes, they talk about drugs and alcohol and how that plays into suicide.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that definitely was a fact, because most of, a lot of those are dual diagnosis, PTSD, as well as drug and alcohol.
Okay, so we'll just make sure, Judge Blackburn, if it's okay with you, when we ask him what he's going to chat about, that he brings that into the discussion.
Please.
Yeah.
Okay. And then obviously
another panel opportunity too. So
yeah, and so John, I can maybe brainstorm someone else to bring in. Then maybe Judge Blackburn. I don't know if I just put your name there. If you're comfortable with speaking, that's fine.
I am. I want to talk. Paul, are you still on the call?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
Okay, I want to talk to you. Are we still doing the legal clinics for veterans?
I know there is some sort of program, but I'm not aware of exactly what that is at this time.
Okay, you and I need to talk after the call because the NBA was doing something about that. So you and I need to talk about that and see if that's still going on through the NBA. Because if it is, that's kind of in your ballpark, and we need to talk and figure out if that's still going on. If it is, I want you to be part of this discussion.
Yes.
Okay, and I'll just come in. I will check again, but I think legal aid is doing virtual appointments with folks here still, and so there's that piece that I know about.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about, and I just want to make sure we bring that into it and what issues they're finding. So,
okay, we got 4 minutes, so I just want to close out real quick here. Lisa, are you okay with talking on Metro stuff? I'm sorry, on BSO stuff. Lisa?
Yes, I am.
Okay, perfect. I figured that. Kim, obviously we've got you there. We'll work on getting the veteran employment piece. So when I send this back out, there'll be a day or two added for our discussions. And we'll also look at John's recommendation that we bring in someone, you know, from the, well, we'll have the deputy, well, no, he's not, Travis is no longer Veterans Affairs. So we'll look at how we bring that in, and maybe that's a working discussion. Maybe, you know, we have 2 days on a working discussion. We bring them as a member in at the end to kind of wrap as part of our wrap up too. So the rules are that we're not.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
One other thing that I just want to be sure is captured today. I don't know where, if it needs to go anywhere, we could add it to a discussion for the next one, but I want to be sure that we have thought about how DEI and potential race and gender issues fit into this context. I think that any discussion right now about serving in the community needs to at least be informed by that. I don't think it's a day. I'm not sure what it looks like, but I would like to see an acknowledgement of the different experiences of people based on race, ethnicity, gender, and other factors that might impact their ability to access service.
So Kim, what I think I'll do to try and address that, and John, you come in here if you think it's wrong, but as we ask these people to speak, we will ask them to include that in their discussion. So as you're talking about mental health or health in general, are there race and gender issues involved in that make it more difficult, or where there are gaps for that? How about that? Will that do that? And same with employment and same with education, that will ask them to include a DEI piece in their discussion.
Great idea. And
I think it makes
you can also pull in
sense.
part of the, sorry, go ahead, Kim.
No, John, go ahead. I was going to say, just I think what's more authentic is if it's woven into the fabric of the other discussions versus being segregated. So,
okay.
Yeah, and I think it's part of the veteran transition discussion too, because that will influence a lot of their transition as well. So,
this is Yolanda. I'd like to add, under veterans education, I think that there may be a need from what I see as far as soft skills training. So if that could be a part of the education piece as well, it's the soft skills training.
So I have a perception of soft skills training, and you might have one. So can you give me an example of what you are thinking about with soft skills? Yes,
as far as employment, there are certain things that employers are looking for as far as creativity, problem solving, emotional intelligence, but being able to tap into those skills are becoming a higher need and always available versus the hard skills training where you have a skill that may expire in a year or two versus actually being a person that can problem solve, have creativity, and be able to present.
Okay.
And Yolanda, might that also be, where you're coming from a military culture into a civilian culture? Is that part of maybe what you're getting to there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because it's different. Because we definitely have problem solving training and decision-making training in the military, but it's a lot different than what might work in the civilian world. So.
Okay, we'll look at where And, you know, veteran transition is very big. That could also be somewhere where I think we fit it in there, John. We give Eric 20 minutes and then we bring somebody in maybe, or maybe we ask him to address that. And Eric Horton, as it says there, was very involved with helping Fort Campbell specifically as a consultant transition and put together transition experiences in that. And obviously went through some stuff himself, and he's just very vocal on veteran transition and how veterans can make it better and then how employers can. So that. We are right at 10 o'clock. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. I'm going to close this screen out to see if there's anything that anybody would like. I will endeavor to get any read aheads out earlier next time. We, again, and Councilman Rutherford, make sure that I understand this. We're supposed to only talk about this where it is recorded. And so it's hard to, I mean, I think if you wanted to call me, that would be easier than emails, because anyone just has to go with people being able to do a FOIA for the record, you know, and so that's why we're trying to keep everything here. But, you know, calls, if a phone call, you know, that's harder. We have to be able to talk about it. And then the other thing I'd have you think about as we go through is an hour enough, because, you know, we don't want to back-to-back meetings scheduled for folks and we run over, which we're doing at 1 minute. So do we need 90 minutes, you know, and it's your schedules, and we can talk about that at the next meeting. Any last comments? I am going to leave this up for a minute. I am not that familiar with recording, so I hope it's going to get all the chats. So I'm going to read through the chats before I close this out totally. But if you have to leave, go ahead. I just want to make sure that I can get that. Yolanda, you did not get the read ahead. Okay, I'll send that. I'll forward that email to you, or have Roseanne Hayes from Councilman Rutherford or from Metro send it to you, because everything's supposed to go through that office, but I'll have her send that to you. Also, there was a mistake on Judge Blackburn's assistant, and so I will ask Roseanne to send out an updated roster that has everybody's email on there. And again, I realize that you are all busy. And so any last minute things, I'm excited. I think we have a great way ahead. I do think maybe it's going to take a couple extra days than I had on there. So I may extend that calendar invite too, but I think it's time well spent. And I'm excited about the report that we'll be able to give to the Vice Mayor about what's already being done, and maybe about where Metro can come in and do some things more long-term. As comments?
Eden, I'd like to ask the Vice Mayor to drop by at some point during a meeting, if nothing else, just to say hello to everyone. He tends to do that for special committees at some point. He is the person who's officially appointed everyone, because we are all Metro officials now in this capacity. And so at some point, I'll see if he can drop in on us just for a moment to say hello to everyone and thank everyone for their service.
Right, that's great. Roseanne is on the phone here. And then, so I guess what I would say too is I don't want this to be just John and I providing information. So if you have information that you would like to provide to the group before a meeting, you would send that to Roseanne. She's the one who sent the email out today, and we'll continue to do that. And then she would make sure that we would all get that. And then it's public record. And so that's why we kind of use her as our person to do that. So, you know, Lisa may want to send something out even ahead, or somebody's done some great, oh, I found this article, or, oh, I had this discussion, or anything like that. Send it to Roseanne and she can send it out to the group, even outside of the meeting times, is the way I understand it. Is that true, Councilman Rutherford?
Yes, that's part of the Open Meetings Act that we have to follow.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be a wait for a meeting. It can be some reading material that you would like us all to know about. For instance, you know, Paul was unfamiliar with the grant per diem program. And so Judah sent him a link, but, you know, there's other reading material we could give, or, you know, anything like that. Judge Blackburn, there's a lot going on in the mental health and the veteran court that I'm familiar with, but other folks won't be, you know. So if there's anything you want to send out, just send it to Roseanne. So it's for public record, and she will disseminate it to the group to inform our discussion. And one last thing, I know we're at 5 minutes, please bring your questions. You know, you can even send your questions ahead of time about the next topic through Roseanne, so that we can get ready as facilitators to address those and make sure that the speakers are ready to address those. Cool. I'm excited. Thanks for your attention. I'll probably extend that invite through July because we're adding on a few things, which I think is good. But, and, you know, maybe when we have a discussion, we'll be like, you know what, we didn't have enough on that. We need to have that come back for another week. So that's not set in stone, but I'll block your calendars out for a while. And I understand that people have appointments and people are going to go on vacation. So you may miss one. That's why they're recorded, so that we can send it to you afterwards. All right, everybody, have a great day. I'm going to stay on. You guys can all leave. I just want to make sure I catch the chat. John, you want to hang on with me real quick? And we'll leave it recorded. Just so
thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Eden, I was going to mention too that, you know, when the meeting is over, if you leave it recording like you are now, you know, there can be a discussion in regard to, you know, the next meeting or, you know, whatever you want to talk about, because it's recorded and it's going to be part of what's posted. So we're clear there for any type of, you know, after meeting discussion, as long as the recording is still going. What we couldn't do is we couldn't cast votes on anything, because now that people have left, we don't have a quorum for the meeting, but we can talk, of course, because it's still you know, recording.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, I appreciate that. And John Burgess is still here too. So, oh yeah, I have the worst trouble on chats when I have the screen up. I can't seem to get my computer. I'm not the world's best Zoom person. I can't wait till we get to meet in person.
Me too.
Yeah, so Lisa asked if the mission continues, ought to come in and talk. I don't know that they're that active. And John, I'm with you. I don't know who I'd reach out to do that.
Did you see the name she said that she sent, who's leading it now? Do you, I reckon I've heard the name, but I don't know the person. It's, let me see if I can find it up here again.
I didn't see that I see the ESRG name, Amanda McMahon.
Mary Beth Brueggemann.
Oh, all right.
Lisa thinks she's the current platoon leader. I don't know her, but
yeah,
I think I
don't know her either.
My guess is they're not very active. They never have been very, very strong.
Yeah, I'm taking down Amanda's name here, so. MC McMahon, McMahon .ctr. You gotta love government emails. At AL.mil. Okay, Amanda W. McMahon .ctr.
Yeah, that's Amanda with ESGR.
Right.
She can connect us to whoever they may have to come in as a speaker potentially. And so, like as I had mentioned, I had asked them if they wanted to serve as part of this committee. They just didn't have anyone that was available to commit the time to it.
Yeah, and Victoria brought up Dean Wagner. That would be a good part of the employment one, I think. You know, being a veteran entrepreneur, John, we didn't think about that either. Veteran company owners, how are they receiving?
Yeah. I don't know that they got ESGRs and that sort of thing, but he could definitely speak to, you know, yeah, veteran entrepreneurship and that sort of thing.
Or, you know, what is the support for veteran companies in Metro? You know, just more generally like that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Somebody else.
Councilmember Hancock, by the way, just sent her regrets that she was not able to attend. She had some work things that came up and she couldn't get away.
Yeah. Okay.
But she'll join us next time, hopefully.
Okay, yeah, a couple people didn't get the materials, so I'll send Rosanna a note and ask her to resend the email with the materials that I sent out. Carlton didn't get them either, so.
If there could be a potential email issue, I know that was the Judge Blackburn issue, was the email entered incorrectly, and that's why I corrected that and then sent it to you. We might want to double check if someone didn't get something that the email is entered correctly.
Okay. All right, I'll do my best. That's gonna have to be one-on-one though.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dean Wagner, I've got that. I've got Amanda for the ESRG. John, you and I will work together on, you know, as the facilitators. I talked to Councilman Rutherford. He knew that we were going to have to talk, you know, to get ready for the meetings. And so you and I can do that so that we're ready. Otherwise, I think I've gotten everything there. Paul had a mention of social media outreach as publicity, and I think that fits in really well at the end as we do our working discussion of where we need to go, you know, so that's a great one to have about what's missing and all of that. I think I got all the other chats.
Yeah, and Lisa talked about looking at keeping in mind, you know, past initiatives that worked or didn't work, and so we don't duplicate some of the failures. And I think that'd be part of that last discussion, you know, the working discussion about going forward in our assessments. So.
Okay. All right. All right then. John, thank you for hanging here. So John Crinson, I have Operation Stand Down Tennessee business to talk with you, so I'll call you on
okay.
Separate thing.
Don't want to record that probably.
Don't want to record that. Yeah, so there we go. So I'm going to pause the recording. I have saved it on my computer. I'm going to have to get some help on how to send it to Roseanne, but I will do that.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thank you very much for yeah, you too. I appreciate you.
All right. Bye-bye.
See you.